Hey guys, here we go with kind of the same gear as yesterday. The same brush, same soap. Changed up the blades because I also changed up the razor. Today it's the vintage super speed flare tip red tip from Gillette. It's the heavier of the flare tip super speeds. I believe it has a slightly more aggressive nature to the head, and we'll be using that. And because the Israeli red, the blade I've been playing with lately, sometimes tends to be a little bit rough with some razors, I kind of assumed it might be a little bit rough with this one. And so I decided to back off to the Astra Superior Platinum. So we'll go ahead and put that in. And there we go. Decent user grade red tip. The coloring's wearing away a little bit. And the doors aren't precisely aligned on one of the sides. And we've got a little bit of brassing here. But, I don't use it enough to warrant getting a nice one. And to be honest, those that have been repainted, I like the vintage look. I like it to look old because it's an old razor, and so I actually don't like the nice shiny ones quite as much. All right, this is a big Bloom Badger brush. Been soaking him now for a very short time, maybe not even a minute, before I have pulled it out of the water to show you guys. And it is comfortable. I had my first shave with it last night, and I really enjoyed the Stirling High Mountain White 26 millimeter Badger brush. I am a big fan. All right. Also, one of my goals, not only to play with the super speed flare tip there, but and enjoy the brush, but also to sniff the Hindsight again. And I kind of walked past it yesterday when I shaved with it. I smelled it before the shave, smelled it after, but I was just involved in doing the shave, and I didn't really remember the soap kind of having too much of an impact during the shave. And that makes me think maybe it's just a little bit on the lighter side. And let's just do it again and see what happens. Also, let's do the load a little bit differently and increase the load time with this brush. I believe I need a little bit more than the 30-second usual load. Oh, this is such a good scent though. The smokiness, the cade jumped out at me at first. The maybe a little bit of the orchid, just a hint of it, it's like the sweetness of it came into play a little bit, but it was not feminine at all because there were with the cade and the smoke and a little bit of woodiness thanks to the teak, cedar, and sandalwood. They all got along really nicely. A definite masculine fragrance, outdoorsy. I like it a lot. And so I really hope that during the shave, I'm able to kind of capture that and absorb it and have it be part of the experience instead of something that I really only catch when I stick the tub or the lather bowl in my nose. All right. We are loaded up. So let me, and by the way, dark fall like yesterday as the post shave. Oh man, that was just so good. Oh, I just enjoyed smelling myself for like an hour after yesterday's shave. So yesterday with 45 seconds of loading, I had 2, maybe 3 passes of lather left over. Why don't we try 35 seconds of loading today and see how that works out. This brush holds so much water. It was just pouring out. Let's leave a little bit in there to work with the soap. And what do we say, 35 seconds? Okay, we'll wait till 50 rolls around right there. And then we'll go to the 25 on the next minute. Just kind of moderate pressure. This knot is so big that if you give it like medium pressure or anything more, then it's just gonna splay super huge and you're not really gonna get anything. What did I say? Did I say I went to 15 on the next minute? See, I got to talking. I think at 40 I started. And so this is 35 seconds. See how it looks. Let's go ahead and do another 5 seconds. And so I believe that will make it a total of 40 seconds loaded. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I bet that'll be just right. All right, and we had some water in the brush, and so when I did apply a little bit more pressure, sure enough, it all just kind of came out and became pre-wash. Maybe that'll be good for the shave. About 24 hours worth of growth. That's what we're going to be dealing with. Going to rinse out the side of the tub, the threading and stuff. Better be careful though, because with this soap he did actually use real masking tape, it seems. So I better be careful about that. As we discovered yesterday, this huge 26mm brush. And when I say that, what I actually meant was it's huge even for a 26mm brush. It's like the biggest Bloom 26 I've seen. It makes this bowl feel a little on the small side. So what we're doing now is we're equalizing and combining what we do have in the brush. Before I started mixing, what we had was water deep in the knot, and then we had the soap kind of at the tips, and because of the amount of loading that we did, it did reach a little farther back. And we did have some froth, which would be the joining of soap and water, but we definitely had plenty of soap that needed to find that water that was in the brush. And so that is what we just kind of merged together to get this. And sometimes this will tell you a lot about your lather and how you need to go. If this looked really dry and skimpy, then maybe there was something wrong with your loading process. Maybe you needed a little bit more water in your brush to be able to kind of activate on the soap so that you can pull, so it can pull more soap into the brush. Yeah, that's what I have sometimes had happen to me. If this is all just sudsy, then maybe you had too much water in your brush or a lot of water in your brush, and then maybe you didn't load for quite long enough. Sometimes too much water in your brush can get in the way of the loading and mean that you have to load just a lot longer than you really should have to. But the good news is the water problem is not a big deal. You just keep mixing and mix that water with your lather. And sometimes that's a shortcut actually, but that is something that you can kind of read from the signals that your brush and your bowl are giving you if you do use a bowl at this stage of the game. And so I will, now that it looks somewhat consistent, I'll go ahead and start putting some water in. I used a little bit less load time today. So maybe the same water amount that I used yesterday, which I felt was a tad low by the time everything was said and done. I thought that 4 teaspoons was just a hair low. So maybe the 4 teaspoons might be perfect today since we backed off on the load time. Looking really good. It's on its way. yeah, let's go ahead and do the whole 4. And then just see what the lather looks like. So in this case, we're not spending a whole lot of time making lather. Slowly adding water. Obviously this base doesn't mind if you just pop in 2 whole teaspoons at a time. It's just fine with that. Some soaps are picky about that. Williams Mug soap, Mlkstk water soap, 2 very, very slick soaps that need you, in my experience, that need you to not come at it with a soaked brush when you load from the puck, and then work it for a little bit in the bowl first without adding water for a while, and then slowly add the water. And that's the secret. That gave me great Williams lathers in a shorter amount of time than my other method of just whipping it for a while. And it gave me great lathers with Mlkstk water. Look at that. Look at how big that volume on that brush is. That's crazy. Let's look at the kind of the peaks and behavior elasticity of the soap here, of the lather. We've got some long peaks, and they sure they bend at the tips, but they still got a good bit of structure to them to be able to stick its little peak out to the side like that. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. Now at this point I feel like I'm really pretty close to the right amount for this soap, and so I'm going to just add half a teaspoon at a time. Look at that. That is goodness. That right there is delicious. Lovely. Let's just go with that. Okay. Interesting to see. I'm curious about the red tip. It just had a little bit of vocality to it, if that's a word. As it moved across my face, gave me a little bit of noise, chatter, if you will. And sometimes that also translates into a kind of an iffy feeling, not as consistent, not as smooth, controlled in terms of blade grip and that sort of thing. And I think some guys are used to that, and that's what they actually have grown to like. And that's fine. That is great. However, I don't often like that. So we'll just see how today goes. It'll be a fun little trip, because sometimes you got to go back and revisit stuff that you've used in the past just to, for fun, just to see if it still behaves the same way for you. Sometimes you discover cool stuff. Get my face wet. I feel like I'm serving ice cream. This is just huge. This brush feels terrific. Very soft. It's kind of the opposite of that new trend right now. I say new trend. Maybe it's been a decade or so now. At least that's the way it seems. Where people are getting high backbone brushes with those bleached, treated tips, like the ones from Declaration Grooming, and there are certain knots that he makes that I really do enjoy, but so many of those have way too much backbone for me. And even the knots that I like, I have to make sure I try to find a brush where they're mounted, lofted a little higher than average. Now, this right here usually indicates to me that it's a little too dry. When I have so much built up around my goatee and the edges of my neck, that what probably happened was I went to my face with the brush and ended up making lather while I was just trying to apply it. So just add some more water. Sometimes I've used my fingers like a rake and removed part of the water from my face, the lather from my face. And then I go back with the brush and it's like I didn't even take off anything because it just brings it right back. Okay, the scent right now, yeah, it's not strong. I can definitely smell it. Oh, it's very nice. But like what happened yesterday, you can almost go right past it. Almost complete the whole shave and not really. And again, look, got this built up around my goatee, the edge areas, and it's around the side of my brush here. So I definitely have plenty of lather, and I didn't need to load for as long as I did. Matter of fact, I'm at 5 teaspoons of water now. I may somehow have loaded more than I did yesterday. And I'm putting more than just a few drops in the brush. That's one thing I really like about this big knot. There's so much to it that I don't have to worry about putting a few drops in and then have them run out the bottom of the knot. There's just a lot. It's holding so much lather. I'll still tilt my head over to make sure that the water does make it to the right place and become part of the lather. Man, this brush is great. It reminds me of a Kent with a little bit better backbone. And I think that could appeal to a lot of people. There are definitely plenty of people who don't like the Kent because of the kind of lack of backbone. They call it floppy, and I might agree with them. But I call it soft and poofy and easy display. See, so I've added a whole 2 teaspoons of water to this face lather here. And see, we've got excess right here. Go to excess here. Wow. I definitely, here, let me show you my lather bowl. Right here at the bottom, this section right here, that's what I've been scraping off of my face. Definitely loaded way too much this time. All right, let's just go with it. We don't need to get the lather absolutely perfect every single time, right? It is, I mean, it's there when I want to smell it. When I stop, that smokiness is the dominant note. I'm a big fan of that. And I can pick up the cade, but it's so faint that I'm not really getting too much else. And that's unfortunate because Scott did say that it was perhaps the most complex scent that he has put together. And I guess if I really want a good jolt of the scent, I need to get the aftershave splash. You know. So the pieces that he lists in it: cade, amorous, teak, cannabis, litsea, Litsea, don't know what that is, salt, petitgrain, orchid, cedar, and sandalwood. So those are the notes. And let us see what the vintage Gillette red tip. So it's got a heavier, thicker handle. Another reason I haven't really used the flare tip super speeds very much, it transfers a lot of the weight more to the handle than the head. And I like it a little bit more evenly balanced between the head and the handle. All right, let's see what happens with the, oh, that's pretty nice. Very good early strokes here with the Astra. And the Astra is a wonderful blade for the budget conscious, and I find that it works in so many razors for me. And I almost always just use the Astra Superior Platinum. There's an Astra Stainless. This is mowing through hair comfortably. Very nice. Very nice. Some people regard this as that's the most aggressive one, and it's supposed to be, and I think it is, but that doesn't mean it's a really aggressive razor. That just means it's a little bit more aggressive by comparison. I do not consider this an aggressive razor. To me, it's maybe the same as the DE89s, or maybe just a little bit more. Now, who knows? Could we be potentially getting some stealth irritation that's going to build up over the 3 passes? And that could change my mind about that for sure. We'll just see what happens. And that was very comfortable. I felt the edge, not a lot of audio. And so that has changed. It could also be that I was using a different blade in the past that just didn't work as nicely as this Astra. And this Astra is not old. It's, well, for me, it's only been used 8 times. And so it's obviously smoothed out a little bit from the first few uses. And so it's in a really nice sweet spot for me. And I'm going to do a rinse. Because this lather needs water, not only am I going to leave my face kind of dripping after the rinse, I'm going to shoot in another teaspoon. So that is 7 teaspoons of water in here. And I've still got a ton of lather. Wow, it just really, oh, you know what? Sometimes when it's the first use, that can be totally different than the second use of the soap. The soap maybe sometimes develops, I don't know, picture in our mind some kind of protective layer on top that where it's sealed a little bit, and then when you use it, you break through that, and now you're actually touching the soap, you know. So look at this. Look at it. It's like a bowl of marshmallow cream. There's no ridges. There's only one peak, and that's where I pulled the brush out. This is a big bowl of my kind of lather. I feel like I'm lathering up with a bunny's tail. Like I went and found a floofy puppy dog, and I stuck him on a shaving brush handle, and this is soft. I like it. And as you can see, it is stirring up a lather, no problem. No problem. And this is the good kind of fallout on my shirt. I've got shapes that are more like long and drippy, instead of when I have a lather that's too dry, the shapes that fall down are more roundish. They're more squarish or roundish. They have more sideways volume to them. They're not as drippy. And so when the shape of what lands on my shirt, it looks more like these, then I know I'm on the right track. I'm at a good point with my lather. Still got that zit on my neck. Just have to pretend I'm a teenager learning how to shave. Comfortable, very comfortable. At this point, I barely feel the blade at all. Actually, what it is, I don't feel the blade. I sometimes feel the blade cutting on this second pass now. If you're moving and you don't feel the blade cutting, and this is why I do shorter strokes, then go back over that area with a slightly different angle until you feel and hear it cutting. By using the smaller strokes, I am able to evaluate with each stroke and change dynamically and quickly, responding to adjust the angle as I go. Now, that is just me. That's what I like to do. If you want to do long strokes, there's nothing wrong with that. If that makes you happy. All right. I am definitely getting the smokiness. I'm getting whiffs of it at different points. I wish that if it were stronger, then maybe I would be able to pick out some of the nuances that Scott was talking about in the complexity. But I guess for my nose, I would have to rely on the post-shave product. And this is what I just pulled out of my goatee in my usual way. And so I'm going to use it to kind of touch up this area here lightly. And as always, focusing on a light touch that goes over more times instead of trying to get it all in few shots. Gradual reduction is the key. And let's get a good rinse. Well, I got a great shave. I tell you, I think I drew my conclusion and my judgment on the red tip unfairly. Now, I have a lot of razors, and so you can't always try every one with every blade all the time. But I did do myself a little disservice by, and who knows, back then, this was early on in my journey. Maybe my technique was really more what was at fault. But it could have been I had a kind of a touchy blade that wasn't quite as smooth. But today, you know, if I had this razor and this blade to use for the rest of my life, I'd be fine with it. There are a good number of razors that are smoother. The Fatipes, the Timeless 68 solid bar, Carve, like the A and B plates, double A plates, even some of those open combs in the double A and A are smoother. The new Everyday razor from Charcoal Goods might be smoother as well. And so a low gap Wolfman WR1, really low gap, like 54 or something like that. There are smoother razors out there, but this was really nice. This is really nice. I could see how folks would gravitate toward it. I do like the heft of the handle. I like the thickness. The knurling is interesting. There are modern razors that are coming out that I wish they would do a knurling job on those handles that resembled something more like what you see with these super speeds. And it's a quality job. And yeah, the balance, I may wish the balance, actually that's okay. That's okay. I don't guess I wish it was more head focused. I think that's a good place. I'm happy with that. It's got some girth to the handle instead of the thinner super speeds like the regular flare tip. And so the extra weight can do something very interesting if you're not aware of this. We've got inertia that we're playing with. And I never knew much about this until I used an aluminum razor from ATT, and I found that I had to pull it through the hair more. Even though it was comfortably cutting, I felt like I was having to pull it through the hair more. Now the great thing about aluminum is non-corrosive at all. Even stainless steel will eventually corrode. It can rust under the right situations, and however, aluminum is one of the few that just won't. And there may be some allergy issues or something like that, but I don't like the aluminum because it's so light, and I just prefer some strength in the connections and different things like that. And so I like to go for either brass or stainless, that kind of thing. And so the inertia there, I had to pull it through, that aluminum razor, I had to pull it through my beard. And then I tried a razor on the other end of the spectrum, and it felt so much smoother because partly the weight of the razor would cut through the hair as I was moving, and the momentum of the razor gave a sensation of smoothness and comfort. And so that's what the weight can help you with. That's what you can fiddle with the weight via maybe a longer handle. Timeless has some heavy handles if you go for the longer ones, or if you can find an aftermarket thicker handle. Now Maggard, of course, has those huge ones that are about this thick, and to me those are too much, too heavy. But give them a try if you want. So you can play around with your handle weight sometimes, and then change your experience just because of that. And you may change it into a thing that you really like. I've already got a great cut. I'm really happy with the closeness here. Feels really good. So I'm just gonna do a final rinse. I'm gonna go right to sleep after this. And so something that I keep forgetting about, because I've got my witch hazel stored, my toner from Thayers. It's their witch hazel aloe solution and toner. And I have it stored in this because I like to spray it on my hands instead of sprinkling it from the bottle. And that really spreads it over my fingers so that it's much easier to apply, and I don't have it just run right through the gaps in my fingers. And with witch hazel, it's better than alum in a couple of respects, to me at least. You don't have to rinse it off. Alum, you definitely need to rinse it off. And it has all kinds of properties. This is mainly not witch hazel. Thayers is. It is mostly the aloe, which is really great for you. And then you've got a little bit of the witch hazel in there to do its thing as well. And so that's no sting. This is the alcohol-free kind and unscented. Wish they had some better scents than like rose and lilacs and cucumber and that kind of stuff. It's like the ladies department got a hold of Thayers. I do miss the vintage bottle. It's got a great look to it. I tried Dickinson's and it smells, and that's why they did the unscented. And the Dickinson's is, I think it's more true witch hazel, a much higher concentration of witch hazel. It may even be pure witch hazel. And it does smell. And so it's kind of counteractive to this whole smelly environment that we've given ourselves with nuances of smokiness and cade, and then you whip out the witch hazel and it's like, but you know, it does go away. It actually doesn't take very long before you're not even noticing it. And it's good for yourself. Now, holy cow, this thing, I need to throw out the times and the load time and stuff information from the previous shave. I need to pitch it out because it's irrelevant. It's only relevant to the first use of that soap, I think, because I've got like 4 passes of lather right here, and I just shaved with 3 passes. I might even have 5 passes right here. Tons of lather. So this is really liking this brush, this Stirling High Mountain White 26 millimeter, and I'm really, really liking it. Just right up my alley. I kind of wish it was smaller. I'll have to look on their site and see if they have a 24 millimeter High Mountain White. I decided I wanted some scent, and so I took a couple of drops of Old Spice in my cabinet back there, and I'm enjoying that as I'm putting my gear away, cleaning up my razors, drying my blade off. Big old bloom after being dried on the towel. This is a hoss of a 26 brush. Big handle. I've got big hands. This is a little bit larger than the other shaped handles that you see from this size, and I'm so glad Stirling chose this because it's very ergonomic. I think a lot of guys enjoy that kind of shape and holding it. Very nice. I'm liking that brush a whole lot. We did end up using 7 teaspoons of water with this lather. and it actually needed more, because as I kept having to add water on that first pass, and I actually added water on the second pass too, that means that I could have actually started out with more on the first pass. And so this lather may have needed 8 or 9 teaspoons of water. So I seriously overloaded today, not on purpose. I forgot to think about that first load and how sometimes that can be a little slower to absorb the soap, and so it can be longer than it needs to be later on once the soap has been used a couple of times. All right, that's it. It is time to go to bed, and what an enjoyable shave. And the Old Spice does work well with the Hindsight. Went back and smelled the smokiness, absorbed the smokiness of the soap in conjunction with the hint of Old Spice that I've got around me, and they work well together. Pretty cool. Happy coincidence there. And I hope in this shave that you had something good in here that you found was helpful as well as I did. I enjoyed thoroughly using this vintage razor. The Astra Platinum worked well in it. Not too many uses on that blade, and so I feel like it's a fair comparison. The soap performed wonderfully. I got a great shave with awesome slickness, and the brush, I'm really liking it. The only downside is just the strength of the soap. I wish it were just a little bit more so that I could enjoy it really fully and appreciate the nuance when it's that light, like a 3 out of 10 like this one was. Sometimes wafting to 4 out of the 10, you enjoy it, but what you enjoy are those dominant pieces, and you miss the nuance that could be there if it were stronger. But there we go. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. You guys take care, stay safe.